This video is going to talk about dehumanizing opponents, and so I'm going to open the PowerPoint here, share the screen. Okay, so 1 second. We'll try to do full screen here so that it shows better. All right, there we go. Okay, so unethical persuasion techniques and logical fallacies. In this case, we're talking about dehumanization of opponents. Definition: dehumanization is seeing an individual or a group as lacking human qualities. So people could be presented as animals, they can be presented as inanimate objects, rocks, things, sticks, dirt, whatever. The approach can be explained using a Middle Ages concept of great chain of being. It's described by Lakoff and Turner in 1989 paper, but it is a medieval concept, theological concept. According to this concept, there's kind of a hierarchy. At the top is God and angels. Below God and angels are humans. Then there are animals. Then there are insects. Then there are plants, and then inanimate objects such as rocks and things like that. So this is often used in dividing people into us and them, in group and out group. And even in the absence of conflict, it has been proven by psychologists that people unconsciously attribute more human qualities to their in-group members, and they consider out-group members less human. So my own research, one of my research projects involved the novel slurs that entered the language because of the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, and the new words that people started using to refer to groups that they were in antagonism with. So I will use a couple examples to explain how dehumanization works. So some of those new words that people are using to refer to other groups and to insult them at the same time is the Russian word vata, which is cotton wool, kind of like this, cotton balls, and ukrop, dill, which is an herb that's used in cooking. So it's a long story how those words came to be. I'll just use them as the words that people use to refer to other groups. So when they're fighting with each other, and you know that there is a civil war going on in the east part of Ukraine, the people who are Russian, often, not always, often Russian speaking, and people who say that they would like to keep closer contact with Russia, they are referred to as cotton, and people, especially people who are fighting in the Ukrainian military, those are referred to as dill. Okay. Traditional slurs that those languages used to have don't work anymore. So they came up with new words. And so here's an example. There was an accident when a drunk armored vehicle driver ran over a child, injured the mother, injured the baby, and killed an 8-year-old girl. So one of the reactions on social networks by also a young person, by a teenager, was big deal. Some vata, some cotton, got wound around the track. And why is everyone clucking right away? They would have died anyway from drinking washing liquids in the best case scenario. In the worst, they will reproduce. So this teenager girl is saying that this 8-year-old was wound around the armored vehicle's track, and it's not a big deal. It would have been worse if she grew up and she would have children. And so this person who's writing this is seeing the girl as an object, as cotton. She's using the word vata, which is cotton wool, like this, and she says that it's not a big deal that she's dead. It would have been different if we looked at the death from a different perspective and saw that there was actually a little kid, an 8-year-old, who was squished to death, run over by an armored vehicle. So that's kind of dehumanization in one direction. The other side is no better, right? So when one calls a child cotton, they mute the emotional response to the horror of the murder. There is like I said, the other side is not much better. And so there is an example when the sentence was written: the East Battalion is going to chop dill, right? Like when you're cooking, you chop herbs to add to your cooking. And so they're going to chop dill, and you see that the people are going in a military vehicle and they are most likely going to kill people, right? So instead of using kill, they used the expression to chop dill, as if, you know, they're cutting it with a knife, and it's not people, it's just this plant that's being chopped up. Now, that would be a different story if we looked at this kind of group that is going to be the victim of this chopping, because it's not really chopping dill, it's killing humans, right? And again, so when one calls soldiers dill, they mute the emotional response to the horror of murder, right? If we put people not on the top of this great chain of being, but put them on the bottom as plants, we are dehumanizing them. Well, so why do people do that? Why do they talk about others as if they're not human, as if they're animals, as if they're monkeys, as if they're rats? Makes it easier for one side to attack or kill another if they don't see their opponents as human, right? It's less of a moral challenge. So there's another description here, and you can click on those links and see more resources. And we can talk about this as dehumanization occurring when an individual or group establishes in their belief system that another individual or group is inferior. No one can clearly define all the reasons for violent action, but most psychologists and historians believe that dehumanization is an antecedent to violence. Humans do not persecute groups or individuals they perceive as equal. And so dehumanization is the first critical link in the long, barbarous chain of violent action. And it can be overcome by rehumanization. I want to talk more about the danger of dehumanizing other groups or other individuals. It has been demonstrated by social research, and one example is Stanton, 2004, that dehumanization is one of the first 3 stages that preclude the slide to genocide. So it has been shown that in places where there was genocide, before actual killings started, there was an identifiable pattern of classification, us versus them, symbolization of labels as second-class citizenship. So let's say this group are good enough citizens, and this group is second best. They're not real Americans, they're not real Cambodians, they're not real Rwandans, whatever country you can substitute. It doesn't really make much difference. The difference is, the main thing is that people are seen as second best, second class, not equal. And then there is dehumanization, so referring to humans as animals or as objects. And I will give you more examples. So I just talked about using cotton or dill as words to refer to groups, right? So it's both, one is an object and one is a plant. Both are not words that normally refer to humans. So dehumanization is the third step, and then comes organization. When groups start planning things, they form their leadership, they form some kind of system, how they are going to resist those non-human groups. Polarization, when there is more and more antagonism toward between those groups and less is seen in common and more differences are highlighted. Preparation, when people start making plans how to kill the others. And then extermination. After this extermination, very often comes denial. We didn't do anything wrong. Those people, they just asked for it. They were bad. They deserved to be killed. They deserved what happened to them. It was their own fault. So those are stages of genocide. And dehumanization is one important step that may lead to genocide. That's why it's important to talk about it. So more examples. In Rwanda, there were cases when the Tutsi population were referred to as cockroaches, and then people were told anyone whose neck you do not cut is the one who will cut your neck. And then there was 800,000 Rwandans, mainly Tutsis, were killed in the matter of about 100 days. In Nazi Germany, there was anti-Jewish propaganda, and here's an example where there's a person who is using chemicals to clean the area around this tree that's sickly, because most likely because of all of those rats that have been probably eating or damaging this tree. Okay, so there are rats, there's a tree that has words referring to the German state on it, and so this cartoon is titled "When the Vermin." Excuse my pronunciation. When the vermin are dead, and then there's a caption on the bottom: when the vermin are dead, the German oak will flourish again. So Jews are not humans, they're rats in this cartoon. Again, a very clear example of dehumanization. Okay, so it's not only old history. Today, if you look for, if you Google recent presidents, you will see images similar to that. Obama has often been shown as an ape. George Bush has been compared to an ape. I think the current president has been compared to a lot of things. So people are doing that. It has not stopped. It's not something that we can say, oh, it's old history. So people are dehumanizing others when they disagree with them. And I think it's very dangerous and very unfortunate. So another example would be referring to people as animals. Excuse me.
We're taking people out of the country. You wouldn't believe how bad these people are. These aren't people. These are animals. And we're taking them out of the country at a level and at a rate that's never happened before. And because of the weak laws, they come in fast. We get them, we release them, we get them again, we bring them out. It's crazy.
Okay, so this is another case of dehumanization. And I think my presentation is pretty much over. I want to show you that the last slide in the PowerPoint leads you to this video. If you're curious and if you have 10 minutes, you can click on it and watch. There will be more examples and more explanations of what dehumanization is and how it works. And that's about And that's about all. Right. Okay, so here is the link to more examples. And this is the end of this video.